Alright, so there's something you should know. Pokemon Black and White, and by extension Black and White 2, didn't sell well. Not bad per se, but they didn't outsell Diamond and Pearl, and overall, they did pretty bad for Pokemon games. On top of the massive amount of negativity surrounding Gen 5, Game Freak probably admitted to themselves that they were a little bit too ambitious. So, with the DS's lifespan over, and a lot of things up in the air, they took a chance. And in comes X and Y. Pokemon X and Y were released worldwide, yes, worldwide, in 2013 on the Nintendo 3DS. But how well do these games hold up? Do they help the series transition well into 3D? And what impact do they leave overall? Let's find out. As with Diamond and Pearl, there will probably be a bunch of people who will tell you that these games are what got them into Pokemon. These were my first Pokemon games, so these games were a big deal. Not only to me personally, but to a lot of people around the world. Not only are these the first 3D mainline games, they were released on the same day worldwide, which never happened up until this point. So lots of people got the games at the same time, and thus, it sparked a new popularity in Pokemon. Moving on from that, let's talk game mechanics. The entirety of X and Y is in 3D, which now leads to 3D landscapes and models, so no more sprites. Although this is the franchise's first go at 3D, it actually looks pretty decent overall, and not to mention it moves pretty fast. A lot of new things were added with the enhanced features, the biggest one being trainer customization. While somewhat limited, it brought in something fans have been waiting for the longest time. With outfits and hairstyles, the character finally felt like you. X and Y also starts off the line of gimmicks that are released every generation, this time with Mega Evolution. Some Pokemon that weren't competitively viable are now usable. Old Pokemon get new forms, some looking very cool, while others look alright, I suppose. Speaking of competitive, a new type was introduced this generation, the Fairy type. With the abundance of Dragon and Dark types last gen, this new type was meant to balance them out. It did, well, much more than that. But hey, Eevee got a new evolution at least. There are also a few other things. Connectivity was absolutely freaking great in this gen, with the PSS probably being the best internet connectivity feature we've had to date. Pokemon Ami was introduced, where you can play with your Pokemon to increase their happiness, and Super Training was introduced to help raise competitive Pokemon. On top of this, XY is probably the best selection of old and new Pokemon. You can go through the game multiple times with so many different options. The replayability factor is so good. Personally, I can play through X and Y and just not get bored, so it's definitely a good thing. However, oh boy, there's a lot to cover here. The games are unfinished. I'm serious. Every game up until this point has gotten their improved version, such as Crystal, Emerald, Platinum, etc. X and Y never got that. They were supposed to get upgraded versions in the form of XZ and YZ, but they got scrapped in favor of games that shall not be named because that's another rant for another video. So nothing new or improved came to X and Y. Areas that were locked away in these games and were meant to be unlocked in the upgraded versions are just there. Like, there's literally locked areas in the power plant that are just inaccessible because they were never finished. The 3D Pokemon models may look weird, some Pokemon are forever flying, and sometimes the games just look up straight up fuzzy. 3DS hardware at its finest, but still, some stuff just looks straight up pixelated. I mentioned earlier that Game Freak got too ambitious last gen, and that didn't end well. So, there's no story. I mean, there is, but it kinda sucks. Like, there's really nothing memorable about the characters. They're so bland and boring. It's a standard Pokemon story, but almost nothing memorable about it. And finally, alright, I have to mention this. Most RPGs have an EXP share system. Pokemon didn't get this for the longest time, which led to grinding and more time wasted. Now here, the EXP share is introduced, where all your Pokemon receive EXP if they weren't even in battle. Sounds decent at least, except it's broken. This leads to your team being heavily overleveled, and it's led to many people calling these games easy. It also doesn't help that gym leaders only have 3 Pokemon, and none of them use Mega Evolution. On top of that, if you have your team set to a certain way, you literally just sweep the game. It's not a good thing. Now look, I get that they wanted to go the safe route with these games, especially after putting in so much effort in the last games. So they removed a lot of the good things while keeping a few. It doesn't help that these games didn't get their third version either. But you know what? I like X and Y. I like the aesthetics, and I love the new Pokemon. While only 72 were introduced, they're probably the best overall designs to date. And I'm okay with that. So go play X and Y. Just don't do anything online right now. Unfortunately, it got very messed up by hackers. And so, that's X and Y. And next time, oh, Arceus, I'm not looking forward to that.